Welcome to I Am Goddess Collective podcast, a sacred space for empowerment through modern magic, spiritual activism, and reclaiming your power. I am your host, Nixie Marie, feng shui practitioner, earth activist, and mystic, here to support and inspire your journey in becoming the change you wish to see in this world. That change starts within. Join myself and fellow thought leaders, metaphysical experts, and luminaries each week as we explore practical and magical ways to living in your highest alignment. Your journey as an empowered goddess begins here. Let's dive in. Hello, sisters. Welcome back to the show. Excited to dive in to a fun topic today. I've got my soul sister, Magalie Rene, on the show, and we're going to get into kind of circling back to entrepreneurship and defining success, how we can cultivate our own mindset around success, as Magalie Rene is a conscious business strategist and helps support people take the leap from one job to the next, or really any transition in life that's rooted in business, following their dreams, following their passions. So I thought this would be a great time to release something like this, because as we are still kind of finding our groove and cultivating a new regimen routine, and it feels like this year is already if we're not in alignment with what we're doing in our careers and how we are showing up for the world, it feels like we are going to hit some road bumps. So I think it's a good time to revisit, our why and what success looks like and how we're going to be living that and breathing that in everything that we do this year. So Magalie Rene is here with us to find our inner passion, our success, and of course, guide you if you're looking to take a leap of faith and find what it is that you are wanting to be embodying in your career. So before we get started into the show, I, of course, am going to pull a card for us by our my favorite deck, the Moon Deck, which is a sponsor for the show. And if you're looking to work with a new deck and really be embodied by this divine feminine energy, this deck is so beautiful. And you guys know I've been working with it now for the last couple months as we've been diving into the show with card readings. I love that we've brought that back to this ceremonial chats and conversations that we get to dive into together. So the card that I pulled is There is Medicine in My Shadow. Ooh, we're going into the shadow work. There is medicine in my shadow. I love this card. This woman has hair that is actually an owl. So there's lots of owl medicine, which is the wise old soul of, I think, the animal kingdom. And really reminds us to look at the wisdom that can come from your shadow. See the best in, the often shadowy aspects of ourselves, and to remember that shadow work is really powerful. And it is really like the initiation, I think, to spirituality and how we can find ourselves closer and closer to the own realization of who we are, closer to who we are as a divine essence of our creativity, of our magic, of our, who we are, even closer and closer and closer to who we are. So just remember that light and shadow play a vital role in our growth. The dark and deep is really just as valuable as the light. And we need to remember that when we accept that, they actually coexist. We can enhance our shadow without letting it define us. So remember that the owl medicine is there for you when you're going through that shadow work. And I think it's a perfect card for us for this show, because a lot of times when we are finding our path in our careers, we have to go through some shadow work to dive deep into what our true message is, what our true embodiment is, and to not be afraid of that and to fear it. We talk about fear in this episode as well. So I think that's such a beautiful card to start off the show. Okay. And also, sisters, thank you so much for all these amazing reviews. I'm still reading through some of these awesome reviews I've received from my birthday. As I asked, please send me some reviews on whatever form of podcasting you listen to for my birthday. So thank you guys so much. This is from a listener, CWG with a wink, says, wow, Just wow, searching through an ocean of podcasts for voices that resonate with me and speak directly into my heart space. My soul feels renewed after listening, and every episode seems to speak directly to the lessons presented to me and that I'm having trouble understanding and going through. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so blessed and honored to know that you are resonating with these podcasts. And it's just amazing to hear that, you know, it's speaking to you in a really beautiful way and speaking to your heart. I think that, you know, that's where we're navigating through is finding more opportunities to reconnect with our heart space and open up our hearts so that we can truly live in our authentic alignment. So thank you guys so much for everybody that has written a review, a rating on the podcast. My goal is to get to 200 reviews this year and expand this podcast to another level. So let's do this. 1 million downloads. I'm setting the goal this year. So you can help me and other sisters around the world reconnect to their own divine feminine, find their voice, find their sisterhood by sharing this out and leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else that you listen to this show. So without further ado, let's get into this episode with the lovely Magalie Rene and find what it really means to have success, be success, and what your success means for you. I'll see you on the other side. Hello, beautiful goddesses. Welcome back to another episode of I Am Goddess Collective podcast. I'm very excited and looking forward to this show today because I'm sitting alongside a soul sister of mine in the studio today, which is always such a treat as I don't always get to see my girls in person. So we've got Magalie Rene here. Hello, sister.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you back. It's been a while. We had you on the show, like, I don't know, when we first started.
Girl. Like, I feel like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we were just talking about that we're going into 3 years with the podcast. So
Crazy.
It's been a while.
Time flies.
Yeah. So Magalie is a conscious business strategist, best-selling author, and creator of this beautiful event series called Find Your Shine. So she's here today. It's perfect time. You know, we're in January, really starting to create new habits, new routines, rituals for success in our life. And Magalie's really done a lot of work on herself, watched her go through a lot of that as well, you know, just as a friend and just to find like the level of success. I think that, you know, we all have our own picture of or definition of. And so I think we're really going to be getting into that conversation today. So I think when we last had you on, actually, it was when you were doing a lot of interior design stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is a whole new.
I was doing the home event, and that we did that event together. Mm-hmm. So this is a whole new dynamic, I guess. Yeah. A whole new platform to be speaking on. I'm so excited. So
that kind of leads me to my first question. You know, our conversation today is, I think we're really going to be rooted in success, but what really had you jump from, you know, being really invested in full-time like interior designing to wanting to step into being a coach?
Yeah. So to me, I really look at it as very similar. So, of course, when you're dealing with the environment and spaces, the way I always approached it, so my company was called Consciously Design, and I always approached that as like about your inner world creating your outer world, creating your inner world. So all of those things feeding each other constantly, almost like in a figure 8 infinity sign, right? Whatever's on the inside is what shows up in the exterior and vice versa. And I feel like it's the same with business coaching or coaching and strategy with people and their businesses. So for me, one of the biggest breakthroughs in my life was jumping from being an employee into entrepreneurship. And that trajectory and that path was scary and exciting, and it really developed me as a person. I always say like entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. So I just became, over time, the more personal development and inner work I did, I became more and more interested in helping people navigate that for themselves. Like I went from employeeship to being an interior designer and running my own business, and how much that grew me, and everything that I created ever since, right? Since then, in terms of growing my inner world and becoming the best version of myself, you know, I just sort of wanted to share that with people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think too, you just like you nailed it when you say entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. It allows you to really find parts of yourself like you would never find by just working as an employee somewhere.
Hell no. Oh, hell no.
Unless
you're
maybe
not
you have
tested at that level.
Yeah, totally.
You know, unless you're an executive. I'm not saying that it's not challenging to be an employee. Yeah. It definitely is. And we all have trials and tribulations and lessons we're meant to learn. But for me and for people out there who are perhaps spiritual and perhaps entrepreneurial by nature, like our tests come from choosing to step out on faith and step out into our purpose and make that our livelihood. That brings a whole new level of
the
stuff.
Trust part of it and the faith part. Because, I think like I've actually had no experience being in the corporate world. I had little jobs, here and there, but I was a horrible employee. The worst. Like I got feel like fired.
That's like proof that you're meant to be. That's just like further the universe telling you.
I would like come in and be like,
for yourself,
all right, I'm ready to run the shit. Like it's a juice bar. It's a juice bar, I'm like, all right, we need new this, new that. And I'm like, not even the manager, but it's
like,
just.
Girl, you're on minimum wage. What are you doing?
What are you doing? This is above your pay grade. I'm like, we need to use environmentally friendly, this and that, but that's like, I just have such a, I think what popped up was just like defining an entrepreneur. Like, how do we know what signs, I think it's just like this inner knowingness and it's always right in front of you, but not to say that like by, looking at C-level executives, I think they're often challenged, but it's a different type of challenge. My boyfriend is a prime example. Like, I know that I have like so many more opportunities to be in that full trust because that of like knowing when I'm going to get my next paycheck or whatever like that, initially the first 10 years of my like self-employed journey was really challenging. Now I think I figured out something that's, consistent, but that part is really hard. That part's very challenging.
I think that's the part that develops us as people and develops us in terms of our spiritual journey the most, is because once you know that you're responsible for your own livelihood, there is no one that's going to hand anything to you. It does require such a deeper level of trust and faith in yourself, in the universe, in the efforts that you're putting in. And it's like a landmine. There's so many, like that mindset portion of it and that spiritual grounding. If it's not there, you can psych yourself out so easily. Yeah. And there's no one there sort of cheering you on, man. It's like you, yourself, and you. So you've got to be your own manager. You've got to be the employee. You've got to be your cheerleading section. It just requires a lot of energetic, emotional work, I think, to maintain the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So when did you know it was like time to transition into another form of your entrepreneur career?
This is what I tell people, that even if you haven't figured out even if you haven't jumped into full-time entrepreneurship yet, I always say, follow the breadcrumbs, right? And I think, again, this is a spiritual podcast and I'm a spiritual person and, we're soul sisters for a reason. And that's one of the biggest ones. But I think for those of you listening out there, about signs. You are present and aware and in relationship with signs that show up in your life. And I feel like the things that we desire, the things we innately want, those are signs and those are indications of things we're meant to follow. And I always say, follow the breadcrumbs. So that's what I did, right? Like I just got an inkling. So I was doing this interior design work. It was awesome. I wrote a best-selling book on it. I was redesigning schools and residences and offices, and it was definitely a joy. Girl, I love beautiful things, right? So like, it's just like, Leo. Oh my God, I'm such a Leo through and through. Leo rising and Leo sun and rising. Yeah. Sun and rising. So all that to say, I loved making things beautiful and I wasn't necessarily ready to say, okay, I'm done with that. But I did start doing all this personal development work and this inner work. And I just felt so connected to the idea of supporting people. And I started volunteering in that arena in coaching and personal development. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a reason I'm so taken with this. So that's a sign. It's a breadcrumb. If it's something you're feeling, you're enjoying, you're loving, what would it look like if you pursued it? What would it look like if you took it seriously? And that's what I asked myself. And so I gave myself a challenge. I said, well, test it out. I put together so randomly. I just said, I'm going to coach 5 people for 6 weeks. And I put it out I put it out to my network, and I wasn't even going to charge anyone. But my sister was like, no, you have to charge people, because if they don't have any skin in the game, they're not invested. And if they're not invested, then you're not really going to get you're not going to get a real sense of whether there's true value to someone.
True, yeah.
And that was like the way that I did it. So I put this like beta test out. 5 people signed on, 1 person dropped. I ended up with 4 coaching clients over 6 weeks. And I'm embarrassed to say how much I charged them. I charged them, but I'll tell you guys, I charged them $250 for 6 weeks of coaching. That's madness, you guys. It's like free. Basically free.
Yeah.
But they needed to put money where their mouth was, and they followed through. And I realized, oh, shiitake. Like, I get to do this for a living. It was literally my heart's call. And my mother says to me now, she goes, you've been coaching since you were 5. Like, I've always been this person.
Just like always being, I think to add to that, when I see you step into that, it's like a channel that comes through.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. Like, it's a total different Magalie than like, you are my friend. You know what I mean? It's like, when you step into that role as being in service for somebody, I see it come through you, and it's pretty fascinating, because it's just like who you be, and I think that's, again, just adding to that, like breadcrumbs, following that, and your mom already saying like who you are. It's like when my mom sent me a photo of me wearing a like Peter Pan fairy like outfit and I was wearing my dad's shoes, Barney tights, and I was vacuuming.
Which is literally you.
I'm like, what?
It's like an avatar of who you are right now.
And my hair I had long hair like now with bangs. And I was like, whoa, isn't that interesting? And I have definitely followed my breadcrumbs. Like, this was not a planned thing for sure.
And I think so. You were asking like, how did I know? That's how I knew. It's like when you put one foot in front of the other and just decide, okay, this is energetically I'm being called to this or drawn to this energetically. When you move forward, something is going to happen. The universe speaks, right? And we just get to be listening, and we get to be moving forward. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to stop everything else or drop it all and just jump into this thing, which I've done in my 20s. Yes. Don't get me wrong.
Girl, don't even get me started.
I was a fashion stylist for 6 months, y'all. But for real, in New York City. But anyways.
Wow.
But you don't necessarily need to do it so hardcore, but eventually, as you follow the signs and take the steps forward, opportunities will present itself, and then you'll know when it's time. And I just knew, like, I just was like, oh, I'm complete. Like, it felt very complete, and my energy was no longer on that other thing. Mm-hmm. And even the opportunities kept coming to me. My energy just wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And it just began to open up, and I really swear I am a channel. It's like it comes through me. Mm-hmm. And what I see for people, sometimes when clients call me, even on like the first, like a strategy session or the first call where they're not even my client yet, I can see so far for them. And that's like an intuitive part of my process.
Yeah, I think that's the spiritual side of things. Like when, like you've already had that knowingness, that vision, but it's just now giving it an identity of knowing that's like being able to see someone at their highest or in their greatest, grandest versions of themselves before they even can. And that's really a gift, and I think that's like why we are doing this work together, and again, why I think 2020, I keep saying this, like 2020 is a year of collaboration.
Oh, no doubt about it.
And doing things like not the solo journey anymore. Like, we've really got to honor that because other people see something that we don't in their mirrors or etc., and so that's really powerful. Yeah,
I'm thinking about another way for you to know if something is your calling is also like when it does feel that natural. I don't know if I said that before, so I hope I'm not repeating myself, but if it does feel that like natural and connected and you just feel whole and complete and fully authentically yourself, that's a huge sign that it's something you're meant to pursue and contribute.
Yeah. Well, what what does your business now look like? So you've come to this new place, started this sort of new path for yourself, and with your Find Your Shine events, like what is the core of your mission?
So my mission is to help entrepreneurs conquer fears and find their shine in their business and as people. Like basically not playing small, being fully living your life. One of my clients, her brand is Live Your Life Full Out. And that's truly what it is, right? Like completely committing yourself to who you are authentically meant to be and do in this world. What is your gift? So that's and for me, the way that I do that differently, because there are tons of business strategists out there and whatever, but the way that I do that really differently is that I am super connected to mindset, to spirituality, and to conquering fear, because that's what I needed to do in order to take all these big leaps in my life. So most everyone that is a client of mine, I mean, it doesn't matter if they're making millions of dollars, which I've had like high level clients like that, or if they're just starting out and they don't have much of anything financially, they all are afraid. They have the same fears. And that's my biggest, that's what I advocate for the most, is like we get to use our fear to propel us forward. So that's my message ultimately.
Fear is one of those elements of success or in entrepreneurship that you really get comfortable with, to some degree. Like you're forced to get comfortable with.
Oh, no doubt, because it doesn't go away.
No, you can't run from it. It's not ever, like you said, conquer your fears. And there's so many different, motivational quotes or videos or documentaries or etc. that talk about fear, and how we can either
beat it, conquer it,
limit your fear, get rid of your fear, etc. But, I think the cool thing about once you really realize in entrepreneurship or just, stepping out into the unknown, you become like friends with fear, because you realize it's not your enemy. It's actually a gift to see, oh, this is the next step. Because if I'm not living, you don't want to be living in fear. Let's be clear. If you're living in fear and it
and it's
feels
paralyzing
like,
you.
That's one thing. But if you see the fear and you do it anyway, that I think is where you transform the most internally and externally.
I love the way you put that, because it's funny. I say conquer your fear because it sounds good. Like face your fears, find your shine. Conquer your fears, find your shine. Right? Like it's cliche, very marketing, all the words, all the mic drops, all of that. But really, what I teach people is how to use their fear, how to use it, because fear is a guide. Fear can really be a guide. It can be a guide to your next level, just like you just said, which I love. Like if you're not feeling fear, then there's something wrong as an entrepreneur. That means you've plateaued.
Too comfortable or something.
You've gotten too, I'm like, word, girl. Yep. Like you've gotten too comfortable, right? So fear is really like a guide. And it's also, it's even it's psychological and about your neuroscience and neuropsychology and all the things. Basically, that nerves and fear, they feel the same. Fear and excitement feel the same. So sometimes it's just a perspective shift. I'm excited right now because it's the same exact feeling as fear. So
it is. And you can really learn to trick your subconscious into thinking, that fear is love and it's something to move forward and progress in life, versus like fear of it. And then that creates anxiety. Your whole nervous system will shut down. You've really got to, keep that stuff in check. And I think as an entrepreneur, just as I've grown into these new levels, like, you have so many stages on this journey. And when you get to the next stage, it's like, oh shit, there's a whole new box full of fears
and stories that we tell ourselves.
Limiting beliefs. I can't, who am I? And my question for you is like, what are some of the things that you've really worked through in order to get to another level in your career?
Oh girl, the list is so long. We could have multiple episodes about this. Right. But I think so. One of them is one I definitely want to talk about on this episode, because I think it would be really powerful as we move into 2020, is the stories that I've told myself about how I am not the kind of person that will be a success. I'm not the kind of person that succeeds because of certain personality traits, right? And like, so for instance, this can show up for different people many different ways. I'll give you guys an example. Like, there was a time, and there are moments in my business where I'll decide to wake up for months on end at like 5:30 in the morning, because I'm working on a project and I love to write at that time. There have been moments in my business where I do that, and then I like complete the project and I move forward, and it's awesome. And then there have been other moments in my business where I'm waking up literally probably, I don't know, 8:30. I'm getting out of bed at like 10:15, 10:30. And sometimes I work from bed. I might work from bed from like, I don't know. There are all kinds of things, right? Yeah. I might stay up for a series of time, like a certain amount of time where I'll stay up until 2 a.m. and I'll be working super, super late. And I think the lack of like this consistent process energetically had me thinking at some points in my business, no more, but at some points in my business, well, I'm not the kind of person that's a success, because a successful person looks like this, right? They wake up at this time. They do this specific thing at this time. They go to Equinox. They wear really cute yoga clothes. Like, this is what a successful person does. Like, they drink only green juice. Like,
Isn't that crazy?
100% vegan.
That like society has that much ability to program what our view of success looks like, and yours is completely different to like what mine is, and it's all story.
All of it is story. And I think that that's one of the biggest things I want to debunk. And certainly this came to me so strong when you and I were talking about it, and we're like, oh my God, we have to do an episode on this.
Yeah. Well, I had just been reading some article about success and the morning routines. And that was what I was like, so divine that you called me, because I was just thinking about this after I read this article about, how the morning ritual was sort of getting debunked in this article, saying that like, okay, we've been painted this picture that, if you're successful, like early riser, they make the most success during those hours, or early bird catches or what is it? I don't even know.
The early bird catches a worm. You
right.
got it. That was it.
I think I had it. But really, when you think about that, it's like, okay, really? Like, is that true? Or is that just what we've been led to believe? And everybody has their own, like, maybe you're a mom, maybe you have, a bunch of employees, maybe you are just starting your entrepreneurship journey and you're working at like 2 jobs and having a hustle. So it was really divine, just like opening up that conversation of this success game and what it really means. And yeah, I think I really relate to that one.
I love this one. It's like, it's so powerful, because what if you're a success because you choose it? What if you're a success because you say so? What if you're a success because you have a calling and because you have a desire, and the desire and the wanting to do this is enough, right? Like, what if you're worthy just because you are? And ooh, that just lands for me. Like, it makes me want to cry. Like, it's just so powerful, because it's the stories, any other story that you're telling yourself is not true. It is literally false evidence appearing real. It's fear, and it's the unhealthy kind of fear, right? That's holding you back and keeping you in this story that you need to become this other thing in order to have what you desire, in order to make a difference for people, in order to be a contribution. And it's just not true.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us, we identify our worth in our work, in our relationships. Like, we try to find, we work to identify worth within the amount of money we make, or, the types of relationships that we do have. And when you kind of strip all that away, it leaves us with just us, and we don't have to prove to ourselves. Like, this is a really big one for me, is having the sense of needing to always be validated or prove to somebody that, I'm worthy of having a podcast, or that I am an artist, or that I can have a business, and like, hey, everybody, look at me, I can do this, or just feel that sense of validation. And that comes from the father story. Like, we could go deep in that, but that's a whole nother one.
Girl, that's a whole nother, that's another episode. We have a lot of episodes.
Yeah, we could pick them out here. But ultimately, I think it comes down to like, take it all away and drop into your body and realize you already are a success. Like, we came here on this planet to live as a human, the fact that we are eating, the fact that we are living, and being able to even listen to a podcast on like driving in a car or on an iPhone or whatever, we are successful in that.
All of it is an accomplishment. Like everything that you wake up, every morning you wake up and you create anything is an accomplishment, right? Yeah. So that's a big one, I think.
How did that like make you feel once you kind of came to that conclusion?
You know, I feel like I'm still moving through it. I feel like it's a practice. Like I don't know that I've completely conquered that. And I think that that's such a big part of the work that we do in this world as healers, as light workers, as spiritual beings. We're doing the work both on ourselves, or we get to be if we're in integrity, right? We get to be doing the work both on ourselves and within ourselves, and also with our work, through our work and what we contribute. So I'm still working on it. I'm still consistently like making sure that I'm grounded in what I'm choosing today.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that through intention setting, and I'm doing that through manifesting work, and I'm doing that through prayer and meditation and like flow, right? And grounding myself, connecting myself to source and to the universe and to God, whatever you call it, your higher power, your higher purpose, daily.
Yeah.
You know?
And it just made me think of too, like there was a conversation about, I can't remember who wrote, I think it was Ariana Huffington. She wrote the book, something about sleep.
Oh yeah, it was definitely Ariana Huffington.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she was on with Gary Vee talking about sleep. And he was like, yeah, I wake up and do all these things. And she's like, yeah, but do you really do that? And or are you just saying behind a mic to paint a picture of what you want people to look like or think you're doing in your life? And that's a slippery slope too, because, you know, I do interview a lot of people and I love asking those questions. And I think it's really important though to realize that's not who we need to measure up to be. Like if someone says, you know, yeah, I wake up at 5:30, I crush it. I go freaking scale a mountain before I even start my day, you know,
Good
AKA Tony Robbins.
That's
no hate,
amazing.
no hate, but
no
like,
hate at all.
But that's just one example. And also, are they doing that every day? No, shit happens, life happens. I don't know. Maybe you're sick. Maybe
it's
your
also not
cat's
sustainable.
sick. It's
like,
not sustainable.
It isn't. Your cortisol levels cannot sustain that. So in moment to moment, project to project, it's great because you can use those that cortisol it works to complete things and it works in bursts. But once we're trying to sustain at that level, what happens is we move ourselves into like a state of dis-ease, right? And disrepair. This is where you get like heart attacks and high blood pressure and all the things that we don't want because it's not sustainable to maintain at that level consistently.
Well, now seems like the perfect opportunity to share with you goddesses our newest sponsor, the Moon Deck. The Moon Deck is a beautiful oracle set that connects you to your intuition and brings self-care rituals into your daily life. Created to foster community and healing, this entire set of 44 cards plus a beautiful guidebook filled with rituals is inspired by the cycles of the moon and the empowerment of women. It shares insights on growth, purpose, practice, and emotional well-being. The Moon Deck can be worked with as an oracle guide, as a daily tool for reflection and meditation, or simply in a tarot-inspired spread. As a goddess listener, you receive 10% off the entire site. So head on over to themoondeck.com/goddess and enter code goddessmoon to receive your discount. Happy rituals and oracle card pulling, sisters. I love you. And it just paints that picture of like thinking you need to be as good as that to be successful, you know, or you need to be doing those things, you know, and I talk about my morning rituals too, but yeah, you know, I'm just like you as well. Like I have a fluctuation of things, and my ideal morning, and this is what the conversation was about, was like my ideal morning is, and people aren't necessarily addressing that it's not really their morning, it's their ideal morning. So then it, you know, it just drops us into the comparison story. And that is where we lose ourselves with our true identity and our true success and our true ability to know that we are successful within. So I feel like, where's the snaps?
Oh, for sure. Snap, snap, snap. I don't know if you guys can hear them. There are snaps right now.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
you know, for those out there that are listening and have had that same conversation, maybe about success or just even how to like redefine their own versions of success, like what guidance would you have for them?
I would say get really clear on what it is you want. So first and foremost, what is it that you want? And once you know that and you've gotten really grounded in that, you can journal that out. You can, however you want to do it, but know for sure what you want. Then determine at what level you're willing to commit. Because this is where success is not going to happen, is if you are not committed. So it isn't just going to happen because you desire it and because you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You've got to be committed enough to take action on it. My thing is that the action can look a number of different ways and consistency can look a number of different ways. And it gets to be something that's in line with the truth of who you are, who you be, and not with someone else's version of what it should fit into the box and what it should look like. Because if you're trying to fit yourself and you're a round peg into a square hole, it isn't going to work and you're going to be struggling. You're going to be in resistance. You're going to find it really hard and you're going to wonder why it is so hard. And then you're going to be more likely to be knocked off course. Yeah. So I'd say the first is to choose it and get clear on what you want. Decide what level you're willing to commit to what you want, to taking action, and then take action that is aligned with who you be, and not aligned with someone else's version of what success is supposed to look like.
Yeah, definitely. What was your old story of like success? Like, what did you think about it before? You kind of addressed it, but I want to. Oh my God.
My old story of success, you guys, is literally, if you could see me, I'm like as colorful as they get. I have natural hair. I wear a lot of jewelry. I'm just like diva'd out in all kinds of looks all the time. And my old story and version of success was literally a navy blue pinstripe suit, a Mont Blanc pen. I'm not kidding. Like,
what is that?
It's like a specific brand of pen.
Okay.
That's like this, like very corporate, like you have to have this very fancy.
Oh, it's an actual pen.
It's an actual pen.
Okay.
Like,
do you own
old
one
school,
now?
You guys? No, I don't even know. I had one, but I don't know where the hell it is.
Oh
so
my God.
But like, I mean,
did you feel like you were successful as soon as you had it in your hands?
Yes, I did. I felt very good about myself when I owned this pen. But like, it was very buttoned up, very corporate. It looked like soirees at my house with like my ex-husband. It just a hot mess, you guys. Like, and not a hot mess for everyone, just a mess for me. Like, not my truth, not real for me. Success now looks like freedom. It looks like truth and freedom. The truth of me being me. Loving that, showing that, owning that, speaking that wherever I go, no matter what company I'm in, and freedom, the freedom to choose to be me, right? And to travel and to do all the things that I love to do. So what are the things that you love to do? What are the things that are true to you? Who are you as a person? And are you choosing to live fully in that energy every day, and especially in the work that you do? So,
yeah. Definitely. Well, when you really like got clear on that and you're like, this is my new way, you know, you spoke about freedom. And I think a lot of people right now are really striving for freedom. That's like the new version of success, I think, in a lot of ways, you know. So what does freedom look like to you?
Freedom to me looks like the choice. It looks like choice. So the opportunity to choose moment to moment and to step back into, it always comes back to authenticity and truth for me, because I spent so much of my life trying to fit into many different versions of what I thought success was. Success in my personal life, in my business, in my marriages, like just like bullshit, you guys. Like, it was not real for me. It wasn't who I was meant to be. So for me, success equals freedom, and freedom is the choice to look like I want to look, to wear what I want to wear, to do the work with the kinds of people that I would choose to do the work with. It looks like travel. It looks like working remotely. It looks like speaking nationally, internationally, and really sharing my message of choice and purpose and authenticity, and of living a fulfilled life in your work. Like, that's what freedom looks like to me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's marriage. I'm totally open to that. Nixie knows which is another episode in and of itself, like more episodes to come. But it definitely looks like marriage or not. It looks like kids or not, whatever feels right to me in the moment. It's freedom of choice, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like all of those things. I really relate to those. Mostly because I think freedom provides an opportunity to really be fully expressed as yourself. And we're in a world now where that's possible, whereas that wasn't possible before, especially for women. We didn't have a lot of freedom of choice, a freedom of what to wear. Everything was kind of, we're kind of coming from decades of that. And now we're entering a new decade. And I feel like this one is very much rooted in the alchemy of the divine feminine and emerging her back into our society as we've, it's been a process. But to me, that's really what we've all got to remember, because I think we get a little ahead of ourselves too, not remembering that, hey, you know what, like it wasn't only 15, 20 years ago, like we weren't even allowed to be successful.
Oh, so true. So true. Or there was just like this very female, quote unquote, version of what that looked like. And it looked like kids and being married and keeping a home or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I love that you brought in the divine feminine. And of course, we're on I Am Goddess Collective podcast.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason. I love that this is the new moment that we're moving into. And I think the reason we're moving into it is because we're actually meant to bring humanity forward. Mm-hmm. And we're, through the divine feminine, meant to like lift the human species, men obviously included, men, women, non-binary, whatever you identify as. Yeah. We're really meant to lift this world from this place of divine feminine. And what's powerful about that is it is self-acceptance and accepting our truth and who we truly are. That is what's going to call people forth, because no one can accept you if you don't accept yourself. And when you accept yourself, you give other people, men included, the permission to accept who they are. Mm-hmm. So it's such a call that's on us. I feel like a beautiful call.
Yeah, nice. I just saw a whole picture of I love being around and being surrounded by and being inspired by incredibly powerfully driven women who have paved a way for us to see, oh, wow, that's possible. And as we sit here and talk about success, we as women have a different version than the masculine has too, and I think that's where we play a huge role in creating a new environment for and harmonizing ultimately those energies of the masculine and feminine, because we are stepping 2020 again comes back to me full balance. Mm. It's 2020. I mean, you couldn't get more fucking balance than that, The
twos, absolutely.
So how do we bring more of that grace into our beings? How do you bring grace into your career and into your success?
Ooh, that question gave me the chills. Oh, that's such a good question. Dang, girl, going deep.
How I roll.
I do know how you roll. I know how you roll. I know how we roll. I think so. Grace is just such a beautiful word. I have a candle by my friend, right? And it's by my friend Sin. So Lucin Candles, and she has a candle titled Grace, and I light it all the time. And the way that I bring grace into my life is a daily practice of multiple things. The one that's the most consistent, I'd say, is my meditation practice. Mm-hmm. That is an absolute must for me. And I notice when I don't meditate, and then I get to stop wherever I am. Sometimes I'll leave whatever I'm doing, go in the car and sit in the car and meditate for 10 minutes. But my meditation practice is fairly consistent, and that is how I bring grace in. Recently, I've been doing a lot of being very mindful about what I'm nurturing myself with. So it's not just food, but that is included, but also what am I feeding myself intellectually? What am I feeding myself emotionally? So that's how I bring grace into my life. I've been very very specific about curating my friend group and curating the people in my life, the women, the men in my life. I've been super specific about curating the information and the media that I'm taking in. That's how I bring grace into my life. Like, yeah, it's so important. I also like move and dance. And when I move and when I dance, that shifts energy for me. I've taken to like jumping. I'll do like 300 jumps a day. I know this sounds so wonky, you guys, but like I don't have a what's the thing that the trampoline? I don't have a trampoline. Oh, do you?
Yeah, it's under my bed though. I need to get it out of there.
Of course.
I never use it though.
It's
just
good.
bulky and like in the way, and I get to really use it.
There's like a little tiny one that's like a personal sized one that I want to buy, but like
mine's a little. It's personal, but like it's it's big.
It's still like, jogging
still
it
there.
out. Well, whatever, girl. I don't even use a trampoline. I literally just jump in place 300 times. This sounds loony, but it's one of the things that shakes up my energy. And sometimes I do it in the morning right after I meditate. And like my lymph nodes, like your lymph nodes actually move. They secrete the more that you move. And that's why trampolines are so good. And like jumping is really healthy. So I do a bunch of different wonky things to bring grace into my life. And again, it gets to be uniquely yours. So explore and see what that is for you. Maybe I know this girl and we actually both love new moon and full moon rituals. Nixie's definitely more like you are consistent with those with your membership group, which is beautiful. So that's another way, like what can you do to bring grace into your life?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question to ask yourself this year, because to me, when you lead from a place of grace, it comes from the core, it comes from the gut, it comes from, with like grit and like this sweeping of energy. So it's not so much like aggressive and like, sometimes when you see the energy of more like, just aggressive energy come in and wants to like take power over the space. You can feel that. But when you see a person who embodies grace, they sort of float and you're like, what is that? What is that energy?
And you feel super grounded when you're connected and with a person that is moving in that energy. It's a different energy.
It's very similar to the power of prayer, actually, because I have a kind of an example that I just realized was very similar was over the weekend, went dancing and I stumbled across with my friend this Mother Mary statue. And it was like we had to turn around, literally pull over and get out. And it was gorgeous. And we sat there like having fun, taking photos with her and taking a moment. And then this woman came up and she just started praying and like put her hands on her, in prayer pose, started praying with Mother Mary. And all of a sudden the energy just shifted completely. And she invited us, like we could feel her inviting us into prayer. And now I'm in chills because it was like, she just swept on in. Started praying
and it changed the
energy of us like giggling and laughing and being all excited. And then we were just like, oh, whoa, drop in, take a pause and lead with grace.
I love that. I think it's the power. There's so much power in grace. And when you move that way in your business too, you can make immense strides and you can be successful. And that can happen in a way that doesn't burn you out and shrivel you up and suck the life out of you. Yep. It's like when you walk into a room and you can silence the room just by standing there.
And saying nothing. Yeah.
And that's totally possible when you are moving from a place of grace.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think some exercises would be to be able for someone to really tap into that energy?
I don't want to be redundant, but definitely meditation. It's so powerful. But also, like, I have a tattoo on my inner which arm? My left arm. That's an Om symbol, and it's there because I get to remind myself to breathe and to remind myself of the power of the breath. So I'd say if I was going to give like a real simple one, that is the simplest one. It is the power of your breath. When you choose to pause and stop for a moment and take a huge deep breath in and fill yourself with whatever your intention is and whatever you want to come through or you want to show up as, like you take that deep breath in and hold it at the top, you reset your nervous system, and then you ground your energy and your body in your intention. That to me is like instant grace in traffic, in an argument, in a decision that you need to make, like whatever it is before you make a move, you know, it's like instant grace is the breath.
So easy to, I mean, it's like the simplest things.
It's like the simplest but hardest thing. This is why it's tattooed on my arm, because I forget.
Got to remember to just breathe, the thing that brings us life.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I loved everything we kind of got into today, especially just kind of seeing and hearing from you in a new light, and really getting into this like success conversation. What would you say to someone who's really been struggling with their own success right now?
I'd say love yourself. Love yourself in this moment, in this place, because there is something you're meant to learn about the world, about your process, about your business, about yourself. And that begins with acceptance and self-love. So don't judge it, right? I'm in a challenge right now. Like there are challenges that arise so often. It's like kind of part of the process of having your own business. Or whatever version of success it is. Maybe it's not your own business, but whatever that success thing is for you. The ups and downs are part of it. So just accept it all and trust that there's something that's going to come out of the challenge. You know, wait for it, lean into it, cry if you need to, take that time, journal, breathe into it. But the more you accept it, the less painful it's going to be, because then you're not doing double the work, right? You're like in the challenge and you're fighting the challenge. So now you're like doubly stressed out because you're not accepting that you're just where you are. Like it's all the stress.
Acceptance. Oh, that word.
Yeah, that one again.
Yeah, that one's good. That one's a good word.
Yeah.
What's your word for 2020?
Unwavering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unwavering.
I would never have thought that would be your word.
It's like a random, like how it came through. It was totally divine. And initially I thought it was going to be like disciplined or consistency, but it's not. It's unwavering, right? And again, it's perfect. What a perfect segue to this conversation, or addition to this conversation, but unwavering in my vision and in my belief and in my choice to be a success, right? If I'm unwavering in that, if I'm unwavering in my love, if I'm unwavering in whatever it is I choose to be unwavering about, then it's not about the how. It's not about whether I measure up to somebody else's version of it. It's not about like doing it the way someone else does it. It's about being unwavering about what my truth is and choosing that over and over my own way. Yeah.
How to that. I love that. I'm going to sit with that word too. I never really hear that word often. You know, it's like, it's just, I love words. I love when new words come in.
Words are so good.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite word?
Right now it's essentially. I keep saying essentially a lot.
This is a smart word.
Essentially, it's because I don't know where that came from.
I love it,
but I keep saying it and I'll catch myself. I believe that I replaced it with something that wasn't. It was like or like I replaced it with.
It's a more powerful word,
right?
For sure.
It was a pause, so I'll use the word essentially instead of or
so filler words.
Yeah.
Well, it's a smart filler word. I like it.
Well, you know, I'm 30 now, so
you gotta be. You're a big dog now. You know, you're adulting. You're full on adulting now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So
you're a grown woman. I feel like we should cue Beyonce song.
Oh my goddess, yes. Beyonce's my girl in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm not like a big pop star, like pop icon, you know, music fan, but
she's pretty badass.
She's pretty fucking badass. I mean, I also think it's really funny. This is perfect for this conversation. You know, those memes that say you have just the same amount of hours as Beyonce does in a day. I I think that's kind of like,
You're like, I don't have the kind of staff
I'm
she
like,
has.
I
though."
don't really know if that's the appropriate meme for like empowerment of like men motivation, you know, like that also paints this unrealistic picture of success.
That I can look like that,
Yeah.
do all that,
Oh,
and
yeah,
have that
okay.
level of
That's
success
like-
with no staff, just
with-
me.
which equals burnout. Like, yes, I mean,
Me dead. Like,
and I get the point of that, but like, no, not
you're
at
like,
all.
I'm not
Who
aligned.
said that?
I'm not aligned.
Cancel,
Whose
delete.
meme is that?
Cancel, delete that shit. Yeah. So, well, this has been lovely. I want you to pull a card from the moon deck because I want to see what we got now. We pulled cards before we started, but
I feel like we've been pulling cards since we got here.
Well,
I brought my
duh.
deck. Nixie has her deck. We're just pulling all the decks. All the
that's
decks.
all we do. Whenever a sister comes over, I'm like, get all the cards out. Which one should we pull from? I'm going to pull a new card too. So
Okay,
we're
I'm
pulling
just
from
shuffling the deck right now.
the moon deck. You guys know I love the moon deck.
Am I pulling for both of us or for me?
Just for you.
Okay.
We'll pull one for Dumble too because he's also joined in on the podcast. He's sitting. Oh, same card you just pulled.
Bananas.
So
This is the same card. The universe is hitting me on the head with
literally
this.
just pulled that card. You want to know something funny about that card? So she pulled, first of all, what did you pull?
I pulled I am of the earth and in harmony with nature.
So I was doing a photo shoot with this deck outside and I, picked them all up, closed out the day. And like 3 days later, I walk out there after it kind of rained a little bit. And this card was flipped face up in the ground. And I was like, oh, you just wanted to return back to nature. Like that card. And
All the
I'm like,
elements.
okay, you really can't make this shit up, you guys. Like magic is
So real.
real.
That's tattooed on my right arm. What?
Okay, what comes up for you in that card?
What comes up is this conversation, and it is that that I am in harmony when I am myself, when I choose my own path, my own destiny, when I walk in what feels like it's in alignment with my truth. That is when I'm in harmony with nature. And because I am of the earth, that's all that I need to know in order to know that I am successful, in order to know that I am good. Everything is good.
Yeah, and you know what just came through really strong is like we are nature and nature is successful. Like there's
It works.
no
question.
There's no question.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you look outside and it's rained and there's a freaking flower budding through the ground. There's nothing, I mean, there might be like flaws in nature, but that doesn't mean it's not successful.
Yeah.
So that's
Divine.
a good one.
Really
all
good
right,
one.
this is my card. Did you just put
Oh
all the
my
cards
gosh.
up of yours?
What is going on?
Just pulled the other card that she pulled.
Should you knock it again? I feel like it's a good
All right.
card though, but knock the deck again.
Okay, we're gonna
Put
mix
your
this up.
energy into it.
She's like all her
I think
energy.
all my energy is in the card deck. She just pulled another card that I pulled earlier.
She pulled the boundaries card earlier, which is a good card.
It is. It's a powerful
I feel like
card.
I've been really good about my boundaries lately.
So have I.
Yeah.
Well, we're always living parallel lives.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's how we
Yes.
roll.
Magalie and I will talk, and we will literally be like, "Oh, that's happening in your life. Well, here's how it's happening in mine."
In the exact same way.
But
like
it
sometimes with the
looks
same
differently.
person, it looks a little
Ooh,
different.
I love this card. Yep, movement awakens my creative spirit. You know what's crazy? This is so my card because my word for 2020 is creative.
Oh, great.
Creativity, create. Yeah, I've been really.
That's a beautiful card too. You guys, what is it called? The Moon Deck guidebook. The Moon Deck card deck is amazing.
Yeah, well, you guys know where to get it. I am themoondeck.com/goddess. You can get it for 10% off since they're lovely sponsors. But this deck, this card specifically, she's like swirling around a beautiful full moon, and she's just like in her bra, like radiating with this beautiful whimsical skirt. And yeah, for me, this really is so true because when I dance, I feel the most creative, and I've been feeling a little like the end of last year. I felt really actually all of last year. Let me just be clear. Saturn return.
Be real.
Let me be real here. That was a very foggy year and I felt very dull in a lot of ways in my creativity and just like being able to just work with my hands and paint or something. I just crazy blocks, like not even try to paint. And I'm like, that's the shittiest thing I've ever seen. Like, what am I doing? I'm not a painter. Like the whole thing came up. And so this year I'm really committed to and open to seeing how my creativity can really like allow me to guide me to the next level. So I guess I got to dance.
Yes, you do.
And I love to dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Movement
Great
is
way
so
to find
powerful.
grace.
So, all right, sisters. Well, we're going to close this out. This beautiful episode that we had. Thank you so much, Magalie, for coming on. I think this conversation's really going to land.
This was so beautiful. It was really good to be here.
Yeah. So where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on my website. It's magalerene.com. So that's MAGALIERENE.com, or on Instagram, Magalie_Rene. And then also on Facebook, I have an amazing group. It's called The Bold and Abundant Spiritpreneur. And I'm super excited about this group. It's growing really quickly, and it's all about like everything we discussed today. Entrepreneurship as a spiritual journey, and the business and the spirit around that.
Oh, I love it. What does it mean to you to embody a goddess? You're a goddess.
Divinity. I am divine. And if I am divine, then I am enough.
Yes, you are.
More than enough. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I know.
Yes. All right, loves. Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. I love you. I see you. I hear you. I will see you on the other side. And don't forget, if you love this podcast, this episode, if you really felt into the message, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Castbox, or we also have it on Google Play and Spotify. Leave us a rating and review. Let me know what you think. Love you all. Bye, Mags.